Ask Kempinski to build a palace on the island of the gods, and they'll ask, how big? Hi there, my name is Kevin, and I make honest, unsponsored, and to-the-point, narrated video tours about resorts and flights all over the world. This is my 96th video, and today we're at the awe-inspiring APURVA Kempinski in Bali's Nusa Dua. This is one you're gonna want to stick around for. Welcome to the tourist enclave of Nusa Dua on Bali's southeastern coast, as we make our way through the quasi-gated community to today's headliner, the APURVA Kempinski Bali, which I've seen described as royalty reimagined. I'd have to agree. If you'd like to know more about the exact rate that I paid, as well as my next 5 videos in queue, please check out the description below. I've got to be honest, this video was a beast of a video to produce. If you think 34 minutes seems a bit long, please know that it took a bit of effort to whittle that down from an hour and 35 minutes from over 7 hours of footage. Something that doesn't take that much effort at all though is clicking that thumbs up button and subscribing so you can stay on top of my 9-part Bali series. So whether you're researching your next holiday or just discreetly watching as you pretend to work, I appreciate you stopping by and would love if you'd check out my new Patreon, which is linked below. As always, a big, genuine thank you in advance. Even as we approach the drop-off area, it still seems that we're entering a beautiful, but shall I say typical resort. Flanked on either side of the driveway, here are the resort's villas. While I'm sure they provide the utmost privacy and discretion, if you're not the Sultan of Ipanema, I would highly suggest that you leave the villas behind and stay in the main part of the hotel itself. You'll probably agree once you see why. Located just to the south of Nusa Dua proper, the APURVA opened in February of 2019 with 475 rooms, with a further 40 or so villas opening around a year later. Relatively speaking, the street-side entrance, almost always with a queue of cars trying to enter, is understated in such a way that you'd have no idea what you're in store for. And here it hits us. This is not your typical resort, and you will surely get all of your steps in while staying here. Designed by architect Budiman Hendro of the UK-based Denton Corker Marshall, the property was designed in such a way that it would seem to be cascading down the hillside, just like the iconic rice paddies Bali has become known for, taking full advantage of the naturally hilly part of the coastline on this part of the island. The soundtrack to this review is, let's say, different. As you'll see throughout the tour, especially at night, the resort gives vibes that are both Maharaja residence as well as mystical parallel universe of sorts. If you fell asleep anywhere on Earth and woke up in the middle of the APURVA's lobby, you would assume that you were dreaming or had been, let's say, transported to another place. And that is a theme that I think sticks with you when you're here. You're transported to a completely different world, one that I at least do not live in. And so, the music tracks that I've added are meant to mimic the actual music tracks that play throughout the resort's common areas, which of course for copyright reasons I cannot use myself. As we make our way to the lobby, we are first greeted by traditional Javanese wooden statues, which lead us to the space anchored by 4 intricately carved Javanese-style gebyak partitions, which are symbolic of Indonesia's prosperous Majapahit kingdom. So I suppose I wasn't too far off with the Maharaja residence description. The interiors throughout the hotel were designed by Rudy Dodo of the Trivium Design Group, who imagined the interior spaces to be both grand and opulent, as well as culturally rich and relevant in the present day. Staff are plentiful at this resort, and when arriving you'll be escorted and handed off a few times before you find yourself at the small check-in area tucked to the side of the lobby. I switch hotels a lot, and quite often I'm not really conscious of where I am or the name of the hotel that I'm at. So, when I was brought this towel, I thought it was a really nice touch for my own name's initial. I was, of course, wrong. My room wasn't quite ready yet, so I was led to the breathtaking terrace, where I was offered a complimentary non-alcoholic drink of my choice. The lobby itself was designed to be a welcoming space modeled after a pendopo, a traditional Javanese-style outdoor pavilion. The tiered roof leading the eye up to the cosmos. The lobby was, let's say, always busy, sometimes borderline chaotic. Regardless though, I was surprised that I never saw more than a handful of people out here on these incredible cantilever terraces, which are undoubtedly one of my favorite spaces in the entire resort. The view may have you wondering, where are we exactly? Funny you should ask. Located in the far south of the island, the resort is a 15 to 20 minute drive from the airport, built into the hillside with the Ritz-Carlton to the left and the red-roofed Hilton to the right. And I'll be honest, I've never been to the Ritz-Carlton here. I'm sure it's beautiful. I'm also pretty sure that some people won't like the styling of this Kempinski. But it does make you wonder if the travelers next door might just have a bit of hotel envy brewing inside, looking at this palace besides them. One of my favorite design features of the entire property were the stunning, borderline magical Labradorite granite floors. The video does them absolutely no justice. At times you'll do a double or even a triple take to check if they're backlit. They're not. But the deep, purpley black floors have a fire in them, which I'm sure not by chance matches the color of the interior of the roof. Mark my word, when this video hits 10 million views, I'm going to have a square meter of it installed in my bathroom. Now, we're heading down one level from the grand lobby, perched 55 meters above the sea, so that we can explore the most iconic design feature of the entire hotel, a set of stairs. The stairs, which cascade down to the ground floor in a single flight, have 250 steps that draw inspiration from Bali's sacred Pura Besakit water temple, which you have surely seen on Instagram at some point. Near the top of the stairs are two meeting rooms that of course can be rented out. Quite the view for any company presentation. Cascading down on both sides of the stairs are waterfalls which flow all the way down to the ground floor and are meant to evoke the old subak irrigation systems used in rice paddy cultivation. On the way down, we can spot two of the terrace pools which are reserved for suite guests, as in guests that are staying in suites, not guests that aren't sour. By the way, I feel a slight legal responsibility to tell you it's probably not advisable to follow my lead and film while you're walking down the steps. One of the things that I find really impressive about the resort is the way that it plays with perspective. At any given time, you can either see all of the resort in its full grandness, or you just have a much more limited perspective which allows the huge property to still feel intimate and not so overwhelming to navigate. The landscaping choices also play a large role in this. Let's take a stroll down to check out the pools. There are quite a few of them. As we saw earlier, the resort is quite linear in its design and has straight as an arrow paths running alongside the lengths of the pools for easy access. But just a bit to the side are winding shading paths like these, which lend a more cozy feel. The largest of the pools, smack in the center of the property, extends from the great lawn near the beach until the Pala restaurant where breakfast is served. To make much greater use of the space and create more seating areas, the entire length of the pool has these nooks which each sport a variety of different seating options, a very clever design. During my stay, the resort was busy. I mean far busier than any of the other 8 resorts I visited on my trip to Bali. This is in large part due to the crowd at the resort, which was overwhelmingly Indonesian. By a long shot, the Kempinski had the highest ratio of local guests that I saw on my trip. That said, beyond the lobby and the breakfast buffet feeling a bit busy at times, overall, the property does have enough space to take care of everyone. At the base of the 250 stairs lies a reflecting pool which is attached to the kids' pool, which sports a few water slides and activities. Beachside is the Reef Beach Club, which is, let's say, the hip part of the resort during the day, and it wouldn't feel totally out of place in Ibiza with lounge music, plenty of sun, and cabanas and service from the attached restaurant. And then we finally get our first glimpse of the ocean. The Kempinski has one of the best beaches that I've seen in Bali, and it's almost a shame that it's not used by more guests. Connecting the beach and the main pool is this massive and well-manicured lawn. A very well-placed wave breaker keeps the water calm throughout the day. The beach itself is powdery soft, light golden sand with beautiful clear water. Over on the right side is the restaurant extension of the Reef Beach Club. Out of all of the restaurants at the hotel available for lunch or dinner, this is by far the most casual, but I'll admit that the outdoor area had a strange, temporary feel to it, which it very may well have been. As intricately designed as every inch of the resort is, I was expecting more than a tent on the beach. Inside, though, is a very different story. The walls are adorned with wood carvings similar to what we saw in the lobby, offering a very exotic feel, especially after dark. Soon I'll show you the menu for the Reef Club. Feel free to pause to take a closer look. I had dinner here, which was tasty, if not a bit lukewarm. But I need to talk about the restaurants in general. There are 3 other dinner restaurants, and I'm just putting it out there, all of them have a very distinct set of rules. Among those rules published on their website are dress codes, minimal spends for izakaya, the Japanese restaurant, and Coral, the aquarium restaurant. The minimum spend, by the way, is around $65 per person. Photography that might include other guests is not allowed, and specifically for Coral, reservations are required. You're not allowed to visit the restaurant during off hours. You cannot make table location requests, and children are not allowed during dinner, among a few others. All of that for me is A-okay. It's their business, they can run it however they'd like. The peaks that I got here inside of izakaya and later Bayun were with the staff consent. Keep in mind, the menus for izakaya differs drastically from lunch to dinner, with lunch focusing on set bento box style meals and dinner a more formal omakase experience. Both here and at Bayun, you can also opt for one of the very beautiful booths overlooking the grounds. Bayun is their hot pot restaurant. As is common, their menu is many pages long, with all of their different options. It's available on their website if you'd like to take a look. Here, at least, I do need to note how beautiful the restaurant is, but specifically the table setups and the wares. With photography and filming policies in mind, and the fact that, hello, I'm here to make a video, you can see why I chose to have dinner at the Reef Club. Onto the last of the dinner options, Coral. This one, I was not allowed to access, but I'll be honest, I can see enough from the top. Advertised to rival the underwater restaurants in the Maldives, in reality, it just felt a bit empty. Empty as in not completely overflowing with beautiful tropical fish. And despite the photography policies, you can ironically peer down on those dining in the aquarium tunnel, which begs the question, who's really watching who? Alright, we're going to head to my room now, but please keep that photo policy in mind because it's going to come up again. I was in 2 rooms while I was here, moved out of the first one because of, frankly, how dirty and dusty it was. But I'm going to say something that I would normally not do. Despite both of my not-so-clean rooms, I would still, overall, recommend a visit to the resort, as it's just that stunning. Hopefully the standards have risen since I left in mid-June. I booked what was the standard room available, a garden view deluxe room. On check-in, I was told I'd been upgraded to a lagoon access room, which was a nice surprise, in theory. The rooms are elegant with dark woods, neutral Indonesian motifs and patterns used to create an understated feel. And the smallest rooms, still clocking in at over 600 square feet, have plenty of room whether you're visiting as a family, a couple, or perhaps you're a lone content creator. The minibar featured a kettle, plenty of glassware, an empty refrigerator, premium teas, and a coffee pod style espresso machine that hit the spot in the mornings. Along with the eye-catching red keys, guests are also provided with a small safety kit. The beds, more of a cocoon really, as you sink into it, are comfortable with high-quality linens and pillows in good supply. The bathrooms are smartly outfitted in what is becoming a classic style for Kempinski in their newer properties, with a large double vanity with plenty of storage space, along with a large bathtub in front of the window. Considering they're about the same size, I'd certainly say that this is a better use of space overall compared to the Andaz in Bali, which I reviewed earlier this week. The shower had a nice rainfall shower head, and the toilet was a fancy schmancy Toto washlet. Products on offer were nice, if not a bit uninspired with their citrus and lemongrass scent. Then the bedroom leads to the outdoor terrace, which, with its very high ceilings and daybed, seemed to be quite a nice place to lounge about. Last but not least, the closet near the entrance of the room was adequate in size, but I did feel a bit odd to be so far away from the bathroom itself. Alright, so my complaint about the room is twofold. First, there are quite a few cheaper materials used that just don't lend themselves to a premium feel, but that's really not a big deal. The second problem was the amount of dust and in some cases grime and mold throughout the room. When I first started filming hotels for review in the middle of COVID, I originally used to do a literal white glove test, but truth be told, it wasn't necessary at the vast majority of places that I visited. Here though, honestly, as soon as I stepped in the room, I could feel the dust and a very heavily scented air freshener. A bit of dust I can deal with, even an occasional hair somewhere. It's not going to make it into these reviews. But the two things that made this different was, first of all, the amount of dust around the bed and the mold on the air conditioning vent. I called to directly ask for a new room, the first time I've done so in the 80 or so hotels that I've stayed at for this channel. The duty manager called me back and assured me that they were preparing another room. It took around 3 hours to finally have the next room ready, at around 5:30 p.m. As the duty manager said, because they were ensuring that there was no dust anywhere to be found. No surprise, the next room was an upgrade to a beachfront suite with a private plunge pool. Here's just a quick look around. It's more or less the same layout as the first room, with a larger closet plus the plunge pool itself. It was a beautiful room, and while I do appreciate the upgrade and the air purifier that they installed in the room, it was nearly as dusty as the first room. But as I'm sure most of you would agree, that's enough about that. At night, the hotel transforms into a sort of temple of fire. For the next 2 minutes, please just enjoy the night scenes and ambiance, and the sunrise montage to follow. Breakfast the next morning was at Paula, and I will note, to be as transparent as possible, that while breakfast was not included in my room rate, at checkout, the duty manager, who I'd spoken to on the phone previously, had come to check how my next room was. As we were near a crowd of guests, I just discreetly told him it was still dusty, but I couldn't be bothered to try for another room. At this news, he comped my dinner and breakfast bills. If you've watched any of my reviews before, you know that I do not ever seek something out for free, nor do I seek out situations for dramatic effect. Breakfast was a full buffet plus a small a la carte menu. Note the photo-taking policy that I mentioned before. Paula, notedly, does not have such a policy. It is not on their website like it is for all of their other restaurants. Or at least, I thought. At the mere sight of my phone, I quickly had 2 staff telling me all photography was absolutely forbidden and I needed to put my camera down. I wasn't even recording or, holding my phone in a recording-like manner. I can appreciate that they don't know that I just wanted to capture the food. But they could have done so in a much, much nicer and more professional way. I explained that I would not capture any guests' faces, and I took their collective non-reaction as a hesitant nod of approval, and so I went on about my business. Filming the buffet that you see now, the entire time being followed around by 2 staff to make sure I stayed true to what I said, with that same supervisor keeping an eye on me throughout my meal. It was delightful. Like I said, they are absolutely free to create their own policies, and I will always follow published policies, but Paula did not have such a rule, and even if it did, this was not the way to enforce it. On top of Paula, there is a rooftop bar which is open during the night, and off of the lobby is the deli, which is more of a bakery than any kind of deli that I've ever seen, to be honest. Next up, we have the hotel gift shop. I generally never film gift shops for, I think, obvious reasons. But here, I've got to say, if you're looking for a souvenir or a gift for friends or family, the selection inside is extensive and really well curated. As expected, with prices to match. Next up, the spa. I certainly was not going to push my luck with the spa's filming policy, so let's just head across to the fitness center, which was pretty posh. Also note, there's a dedicated departure lounge, which I thought was a very nice thing to have, for guests specifically that need to check out but have later flights. So overall, what are we thinking? Despite the dusty room and the hit or miss service, I will still wholeheartedly recommend the hotel, if not for a full stay, at least for a dinner or a day trip. The property is the very definition of breathtaking, and the view from the lobby terrace will stay with me for some time to come. Now, onto the flip-flop score. Feel free to pause to take a closer look. I sincerely thank those of you that made it to the end and those of you that have liked this video and subscribed because of it. I hope to see you Wednesday at the Alila Ubud.